Hello everybody, my name is PyxlWhip. It has been 1,357 days between Deltarune Chapter 2 and Deltarune Chapter 3's release, so I'm going to list useless Deltarune facts for 1,357 seconds, or about 22 minutes. Major spoilers for both Deltarune and Undertale, so if you don't want to get spoilered, click off and play it yourself. This is going to be one of my biggest videos ever, so please give me a like, give me a sub, give me a comment, and join the Discord if you want to interact with the community. Now, let's get into it. It's going to be an incredibly long video, so get a snack or something and let's begin the timer now. Deltarune was initially shadow dropped onto the Deltarune website back in October of 2018. Instead of being called Deltarune, it was called Survey Program. Survey Program has an ominous message when installing, which says you must accept everything that will happen from now on. The music during the character creator is a remix of Gaster's theme. If you name your vessel Gaster in the name selector, the game restarts itself. If you name yourself Gaster, your game instantly crashes. Setting your name to Birdly, Caddy, Jockington, Rudy, Azrael, Toriel, Asgore, Alphys, Undyne, Braddy, Caddy, Sans, Gerson, QC, or Papyrus, the game says that it is a interesting coincidence. If you name yourself Chris, Susie, or Noelle, the game says you are about to meet someone very, very wonderful. If your creator name and your vessel name are the same, the game says, of course they are the same. If you start at chapter 2, you're only able to set your vessel's name and you can't customize it at all. Internally, your vessel defaults to the first options of each question and its gift is set to mind. In the game files, your vessel is named Goner, similar to the Goner Kid from Undertale. The music in the character creator uses a sample of Gygas from Earthbound. Something tells me that Toby Fox kinda likes that game, just a little. In the files, the favorite food question in the survey was completely different. Instead of your options being flavors like cold, salty, or pain for some reason, your options were grains, meat, and egg. Not eggs, egg. Initially, the game was going to ask if you were photosensitive. Toby Fox hated photosensitivity enough that he outright removed the option. You have more letters when naming your vessel compared to yourself, your vessel getting 9 and you getting 12. When the game questions what your favorite blood type is, it lists C and D, which don't exist, but it doesn't list O, which does exist. When you interact with the computer, it says it has a poorly drawn design for a game, and the last boss is a giant creature with rainbow wings, referencing Azrael's fight from Undertale. Azrael has a ton of CDs under his bed for classical jazz and religious ska, of all things. I don't know what the hell does that sound like. If you go to the bathroom and flunch, oh my god. If you go to the bathroom and flush a bunch of times, Toriel will give you some funny dialogue. If you've beaten chapter 1, you're able to go back to sleep in your room and you'll be instantly transported to the dark world, skipping the whole intro and cutscenes in the school. You can also do this to chapter 2 if you've beaten that as well, skipping you to the cyber world. On the 6th anniversary stream, Toby Fox revealed that the car sequence in chapter 1 was just the characters walking underneath the car sprite, since he didn't know how to make it look like they actually entered it. The library is misspelled as Labrarby, and this was also in Undertale. It's also misspelled in the exact same way as well. Alphys says she watches a show called The Spamtons, obviously just being a riff on The Simpsons. Alphys and Undyne don't know each other in this game, and their relationship really isn't mentioned like at all, and that starkly contrasts last game where they were a lesbian power couple. Alphys is inspired by this dude called John Egbert from Homestuck, which Toby Fox worked on. When you wake up, you can mash buttons to make Chris wake up faster. This was confirmed by Toby Fox, who said it was intentional, but it was a quote pointless detail. Susie has 3 interactions based on which direction you go when you find her. If you don't run, she says you are way too slow. If you do run, she says want to make it a race. If you go backwards towards the left, she says you have no idea where you're going. Chris is set to automatically run through the bullet spade sequence. Toby Fox says he didn't know if it was possible to beat it without running, so he just made it so you automatically do it. In the demo version of chapter 1, there is an item called the wrist protector, which let you skip text boxes with a menu button. The wrist protector would only appear if Chris entered the first area of the dark room when less than 8 minutes after a new game was started. As of chapter 1 and 2, text box skipping is a default feature, so the wrist protector cannot be found at all. Even though you pick up the wrist protector as if it was just a normal item, it doesn't appear in your inventory at all. You can see Lancer's little silhouette on the cliffs as you walk through this area. Speaking of Lancer, he does not have a walking animation that is ever used anyway. Toby Fox mentions how Lancer actually has a walk sprite, but he didn't use it because he looks funnier without it, which honestly, I agree. He looks way funnier with him just gliding across the fucking screen. When Lancer joins your party for a few seconds, Toby originally planned for Lancer to join the party by actually being in the menu and being listed as a party member, but he scrapped it because it was too hard to implement at the time. So he just follows you for a few seconds in the final game and doesn't like actually join your party. Pretty much everything about Lancer is spade related. His face is shaped like one, he has a shovel, which is also called a spade, in his bedroom, and his check dialogue says not to call a spade, but he's a spade. Lancer is not old enough to ride a motorcycle. Instead, he just lit his bike on fire. In his one-on-one fight with Susie, Lancer's defense decreases by 5 every turn. Since it's a scripted fight, Lancer always loses 2044 out of his 2400 HP to Susie. The artist Canotines designed Lancer, Hathy, Clover, Spade King, and Jevil. All of these except Jevil were designed all the way back in March of 2012, 6 years before Deltarune's initial release. When entering the field for the first time, the name of the song in the OST shows up in text. This is the only time it happens in the game. If you have $0 dark dollars and try to donate into the donation hole, the game says you don't have enough money. You failed to budget enough money to throw into a hole. If you enter the Starwalker's room from the Dark Tree area, there is a 2% chance of entering a hidden area with a tree. Clicking on the tree states that there is a man behind it and he offers an egg. Whether or not you accept or decline it, he disappears. Once you exit the area, you can't enter it again. The music for this area is called man.ogg. Toby Fox originally composed this on his Tumblr back in 2012, entitled Waltz of the Sekam Sada. I probably butchered that. The Spade King's laugh is a slowed down version of Lancer's laugh. In the game files, there exists an unused version of the King's battle sprite. In-game looks like this, and unused looks like this. Inside the Great Board, there are chess and checkers pieces, however there are no black pieces, only white and red ones. What did Toby Fox mean by this? When the characters put their papers in the bucket, Ralsei's paper is neat, Susie's paper is crumpled, and Lancer's paper is literally labeled Lancer. When selecting Susie's, it is a curse word, and Lancer says he can't read it because he's not allowed to say tier 2 swear words. If you select Lancer's, the paper literally just says the word Lancer, and Ralsei's team name is the Legendary Heroes, the Herald of Fun and Friendship. Susie also has a crudeness stat for some reason, and this goes up to 101 if you choose her paper with a curse on it. For some reason, the demo version of Susie's team name is different than the final game, being $! Exclamation, question mark, and hashtag instead of $! Exclamation, $! question mark. Why did he change this? This is such a useless thing to change. On floor 2F of Card Castle, there is a bathroom door and is called the Royal Flush. This references the poker hand, which is a straight with all the face cards on it that all share the same suit. When you click on the leftmost hole in Lancer's room, it says you found 20 rupees in the hole. Unfortunately, that's not a useful currency around here, probably referencing Zelda, which has rupees, but spelled differently. If you complete Chapter 1 without violently defeating anyone, the ending cutscene will be much different. A bunch of the King's minions will break in and haul the Chaos King off in a crowd, instead of Lancer being the only one with you. Getting the bad ending makes it so you can't backtrack past the final boss room. Talking to this Hathy in the Card Castle forgives you for violently defeating a Hathy, letting you get the pacifist ending if you didn't kill anything more than 2 of them. There's also a Rudin in another room that does the exact same thing, but for Rudins. Every room inside the school is drawn from a front angle except the unused classroom, which is drawn at an isometric angle to show the door connecting it to the Dark World closet. The doors to the computer lab change between chapters, being single doors in Chapter 1 and double doors in Chapter 2. If you play Chapter 2 without playing Chapter 1, many interactions are skipped or altered. Noel doesn't give Susie a lunchbox full of chalk. If you mention Papyrus to Sans, he'll say that he never mentioned his brother to you. And Toriel doesn't throw Asgore's flowers in the trash. There are 7 unused combat encounters inside the files. I'm only gonna go over the interesting ones. OBJ_placeholder enemy was used for testing using 2 Rudin sprites. All of its battle messages are simple debug strings that just say placeholder message A, B, C, and D. The enemy has dialogue, which randomly chooses between messages A through D, but this is broken and it only ever says willy, 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 willy. OBJ_dummy enemy has a failsafe message if the battle bugs out, which just reads, what? What? One of the unused enemies is a early version of the Clover boss. This one has 9 possible acts and chooses 3 randomly when battling. They also had a higher attack stat and a lower money reward. This little guy in the overworld is called a Pippin and was originally an enemy. The only thing present in the game about him are his stats. According to Toby Fox, he was removed because his attack patterns weren't fun. There's an unused enemy called Doom Tank, and all it has are its stats in the files, having 700 hit points. Most likely it was used for a Thrash Machine fight that got cut. There's an unused enemy called Monster 1 and doesn't have any stats or ID, and all of its sprites are completely gone, with only references to it in its files. Ralsei gives you a manual, but you cannot read this in-game. However, there is an entire 8-page hand-drawn out manual in the game files that is never used. If you toss your manual, Ralsei will pick it up and give it back to you, and if you toss it again, you violently throw it on the ground, and Ralsei says he'll do better next time. If you do this, the manual will be in the trash can on your desk in Chapter 2. Funny enough, if Ralsei isn't present in the room with you, this interaction won't trigger and you can toss the manual as normal. The forest was going to have blue and yellow trees, but were cut. The grass also has a placeholder version, which looks way worse. Ralsei and Susie both have placeholder talking sprites that look fucking stupid. They look so goofy. For some reason, Jevil has a sprite of him dancing away from the camera that goes unused. Jevil's scythe got a massive glow up in the final game. Chris and Susie have silhouette sprites for the fountain cutscene that go unused. Ralsei has sprites of him walking while blushing that go unused because of a bug. Enemies have an unused death animation that was present all the way back in Chapter 1. Weirdly enough, this wasn't used at all in Snowgrave since you only use it on Birdley, who gets frozen. By using an unpatched version of Chapter 2, you could abandon the route while still having Snowgrave as a move, which let you use the move on an enemy. Using Snowgrave on the enemy uses the red mist animation, but you'd normally never be able to see this, though the fact that it has unique audio and visuals implies that we're going to see this later on. The king has sprites for pulling the battle box with his chain, but these go unused. My personal theory is that he cut these because it looks like the king is giving absolutely vicious back shots to the battle box here. This absolute eyesore is a sketch version of the beach room in Hometown. The secret boss Jevil's name is literally just the word Joker and Devil put together. He's one of the very few characters to get voice acted lines, the other being Spamton, Task Manager, and the Queen. According to Toby Fox, Toriel's battle theme Heartache was originally composed as an idea for a Joker battle, referencing Jevil. The weird background of Jevil's room is a picture of a real carousel from a fair called The Hoppings. The spinning 3D thing in the boss fight is actually a 2D sprite that just looks 3D. Inside Jevil's code, there is a reference to script_recruit_info, implying that he may have originally been recruitable after defeating him. The Queen's full name is a serial number, and it's this big ass word that I'm not going to read, but it has all the letters of her name. When the Queen talks to you inside your room on the monitor, she's in front of the Windows XP wallpaper, or like a pixelized version of it. In a big mech battle with her, she'll teabag you if you lose, and you'll get this screen of your mech sitting on a bench, which is a reference to Super Punch-Out when you lose in that game. When the Queen uses her social media attack, she picks from this list of words. As you can see, family, guy, funny, and moments are all right next to each other in the code, and has an insanely small chance of appearing all together. Toby Fox did the voices of Queen and Task Manager as mentioned in the 2023 newsletter. Spamton's voice lines in Big Shot were unintelligible for years since it was buried underneath the song. This led to a ton of speculation and audio isolation attempts until the Spamton plush was released, which gave the voice line completely clean without any music.
Think of something from the inside of the phone. A hand is played through your vowel bone. It pulls strings and makes them ring, and fill your heart just red now.
Even in isolation, I can barely fucking understand it. Spamton calls money kromer, which is likely a reference to the money used in Sweden called kroner. Or it might be Kramer, who fucking knows. Spamton says the word kungadero 2 times, and it's a completely made up word. If you press F1 during Spamton's fight, a tiny Spamton angel comes in and gives you 50% HP. You can even do this in the Spamton Neo fight and get a team heal. However, you can only do this once per save file. You can see this little weird face in Spamton's basement before it disappears. I don't know if this is supposed to be Spamton, but since the sprite's name is image_friend, I don't think so. The song Big Shot has samples of both Mad Dummy and Power of Neo. If you beat Spamton Neo with a full inventory, he'll call you out for filling your inventory with junk and his item slides off screen. It then goes into the next room inside of a chest. Spamton's shop theme was originally going to be his intro song, but every time it looped, it dropped in pitch until it was completely fucked up. This was obviously scrapped. If your game is bugged out or you hack your save file, you'll get the annoying dog on a black screen when booting the game up. Your game window also changes to Deltarune. In Chapter 1, the dog just sleeps, but in Chapter 2, he'll drive around in a little car and sometimes clone himself. In your stats menu, you can randomly get the dogginess stat with the annoying dog sleeping next to it. South of Hometown, there's a little bunker, and the sound effects of bird chirping is reused for Undertale on the throne room. The weird audio that plays near the shed is actually the sound your cell phone makes inside the dark world, but it's slowed down by a ton. These dudes here are Sweet Cap'n Cakes, and they're designed by the artist Nelnal. They also designed Task Manager. There were originally 3 different designs for one character, but became 3 separate characters in the final. If you try to kill any of the 3 members, they will drink milk to restore all their HP, and this is reused in the K round battle. While I was researching this, I also found the original image where the milk came from. Their name Sweet Cap'n Cakes references Sweet Cup and Cakes from Homestar Runner. A few times they play a song called When I Get Mad I Dance Like This, which also references Sweet Cup and Cakes. The song is nearly identical to the original.
But my head would be an old keyboard, and when I get mad, it'd play the demo.
Apparently there was going to be a printer NPC in Chapter 2 called Printor and played this fuck-ass song. This shit had me fucking dying. Why would he make this fucking song? Oh, and on music, Toby Fox casually dropped a fleshed out version of Power of Neo in the 2024 newsletter. It goes insanely hard, so I'd recommend watching it. There's also an unused song for a sneaking section that got cut for the final game. They even made a sprite of the character sneaking, which obviously goes unused. It was cut because, quote, after developing some concepts, we realized a mechanic which basically just makes you move slower isn't necessarily fun. And honestly, Toby Fox was so fucking real for that. You can tell that he actually plays the games that he makes because like a AAA dev would have totally kept some shit like that in. It was sucked as bad as like the MJ segments in Spider-Man. We just gotta like walk and shit and it sucks. Like, oh my god, dude. Alright, I'm getting way off topic, but you get my point. The Snowgrave route, or internally known as the Weird route, is the equivalent to Genocide from Undertale, and the requirements are way more strict than just freezing everything. There is a laundry list of things that you need to do in order to get this path. All enemies need to be frozen with ice shock, and if Chris gets a final blow, you abort the run and you're fucked. You force Noelle to take the freeze ring from this guy here. You must do that interaction before the first puzzle. If you do it after, you abort the run. You then gotta give Noelle the ring, and then you gotta tell her to proceed with everything. Anytime there's a dialogue or a choice, you just have to press proceed and just generally be a dick to her and everyone around you. Once you freeze everything, backtrack to the dumpster room near the dog room and get the thorn ring from Spamton and then equip it on Noelle. You then need to fight Birdly and then repeatedly use the Snowgrave option even though Noelle says she doesn't know how to use it. And once you turn Birdly into frozen chicken, you're locked to the route and it is a lot weirder than normal. There's way too many version differences to list all of them, but the gist of it is that most goofy NPCs or cutscenes or interactions are skipped. The car segments and queen interactions are skipped with more enemy encounters. The music gets slow and creepy. The enemies on the overworld start running away from you after a while. And Noelle even gets special animations where she confidently uses her moves instead of just doing dumb shit like falling over. After making Noelle proceed with everything, she doesn't even recognize Birdly when she fights him. She thinks it's just another enemy. After this, you're officially on the weird route and the Queen's Castle is completely fucked up. The paintings are replaced with Spamton and most of the silly encounters are gone, so no Lake of Acid, Thrash Machine fight, or the part with all the dinner bowls. You also skip fighting the Queen entirely. At the end of the weird route, you fight Spamton Neo one-on-one. You could still do the F1 trick, by the way, with a little angel, and there's even a glitch that lets you cheese this fight. If you hold one button and press the other, you can continuously fire the big charged shot. You also don't have to recharge, letting you do insane DPS to the boss. This was never patched out of the game, but in update 1.06, it added an anti-cheat of sorts. This is called funny cheat in the game files. If you use the exploit more than 5 times in a battle, Spamton gets angry and turns all red. This increases his damage by 0.5 every time you use the cheat over 5, capping out at a whopping extra 26 damage. Update 1.07 made this even more punishing, adding a flag called Hell Mode. This brings out stronger attacks earlier and ups the health on health-based attacks, in addition to making Spamton hit harder. Interestingly, the more times you die to Spamton Neo, the less punishing Hell Mode becomes, getting weaker until it stops activating at 10 deaths. All attacks in Deltarune have an element type. Most use 0, which is the default, but there's also ID 1, which isn't used for anything except an unused armor piece called the Sky Mantle, which says it deflects 50% of the damage by electric and holy attacks. ID 6 is used for Task Manager, Task, as well as Spamton Neo's projectiles, putting him in the same group as cats for some reason. Is he a cat? Was this just a bug? I don't fucking know. Why is Spamton a cat? The tea you buy in chapter 2 has different healing amounts depending on what flavor it is and what member you use it on. Here's the chart of that. Main things to know are that giving your own tea flavor to yourself doesn't really heal all too much, and Noelle gets a staggering 400 HP from drinking Susie tea despite only having 90 HP total. Noelle also asks if she can buy Susie tea in gallons. By the way, you might as well use it in chapter 2 because Toby Fox confirms that the tea will turn rotten in chapter 3, making it only heal 10 HP. Deltarune chapter 2 has a debug room for testing character dialogue. There's also an early and buggy version of the cutscene where you meet Spamton Neo at the fountain. There's an unused object called Skewed Sprite that shows how many pixels something is deformed by. The Queen's Shield for her fight has a beta version which makes a huge fucking just enormous green line across the entire screen. When Lantern Rules cards join your party, there's an unused animation of them turning into a card. For some reason, if you hack your game and you get your Dark World characters inside the Light World, your character sprites will be absolutely fucking massive. Oh, for some reason I'm huge! When you go to deltarune.com/des, it redirects to a black screen with a guitar in the middle of it. It plays a little song called Find Her in the Files and is a guitar-only version of Noelle's sad theme. Des is Noelle's older sister who we never see in-game, and she really isn't mentioned that much. However, judging by how poorly Noelle reacts to the word December in the game, it is heavily implied that she went missing or died before the events of the game. We still have 5 more chapters and probably about like 15 more years of Deltarune waiting to find out what happened to her, so don't fret about it. And for our final fact here, Deltarune Chapter 3 and 4 are releasing on June 5th. Oh my god, I'm so excited for it. And that should conclude these 22 absolutely information-packed minutes of information. Completely useful information, mind you. Completely useful. You are insane if you stuck around for this long. Hopefully you learned something you didn't already know. I sure fucking did. Thank you to my patrons here, Chris Griffin, Lance Rockhard, and Cat Go Moo. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for supporting me while I've done this absolute fucking chunker of a video. This has taken up a ton of time and effort, and I really hope you guys enjoy this. And just watch it, please. I put so much fucking time into this. Anyway, Thank you so much for getting this far. Make sure to leave a like if you liked it. Comment a fact that you didn't already know that I told you. Join the Discord, link in the description. Engage with the community, and I will see you guys later.